What happened to me shouldn't happen to anyone, but I'm glad it did. As a black female CEO of a billion-dollar tech company, I boarded that plane dressed for success, fully prepared for a pivotal investor pitch. It should have been a moment of triumph, but it quickly spiraled into chaos when a white passenger demanded my first-class seat. The flight attendant, rather than mediating, sided with him, turning my confidence into confusion. Blazing moment of humiliation as I was escorted off the plane, my heart raced with memories of every time I had been marginalized. Was this just another chapter in the story of racial bias? I felt anger and resolve simmering beneath the surface. I couldn't let this pass unnoticed. With the support of my legal team, I initiated a lawsuit against the airline, leveraging my company's $120 million loan to make a statement. Public outrage erupted, and suddenly, the airline that had dismissed me found itself on the defensive. My stand wasn't just personal, it was a fight against systemic injustice. When the airline's CEO approached me for a settlement, I surprised everyone by refusing the money. Instead, I demanded meaningful changes, bias training, new hiring protocols, and scholarship initiatives for students of color. Returning to that airline a year later, I was greeted by a young black flight manager, a symbol of the changes rippling through the industry. Standing firm for equality can create far-reaching impacts. My story is just one of many, and it's up to all of us to take a stand against injustice. What will you do? "Excuse me, that's my seat," she said, meeting the white passenger's glaring eyes with calm defiance. The attendant rushed over, tucking her notebook under her arm as if it could shield her from the rising tension. "Ma'am, is there a problem here?" "Absolutely. I believe this seat was assigned to me," she replied, her heartbeat steady, though her voice wavered. The attendant's expression twisted. "I'm afraid I have to ask you to let her take the seat. We can find you another." "Another seat? Do you realize this is first class? I'm the one with the boarding pass." Her composure began to fray, a hint of disbelief creeping in. "Actually, if you could just step out into the aisle." The attendant's tone dripped with impatience, and the white passenger smirked, clearly relishing the authority she wielded. "What? You're siding with her?" The airplane's atmosphere thickened as onlookers shifted uncomfortably. "I'm following protocol. Please don't make this difficult." Words dripped from the attendant's lips like poison. Her authority was absolute, her empathy non-existent. As security was called, she felt every gaze weigh down on her. "I'm being removed from my seat? This is absurd." The humiliation burned, her pulse quickened. "They're not going to let you ruin this for everyone," the passenger sneered. "Problem here? You are." "Romano." Anon stepped in, voice flat. "Ma'am, please exit." With every step away from her seat, a piece of her confidence shattered. She felt the weight of history behind her, a mosaic of moments where her worth was dismissed. "This isn't over," she muttered through gritted teeth, already plotting her comeback. The flight might take off without her, but she would not let their biases land without consequence. Pleased, she stood at the entrance of the airplane, heart pounding with anticipation. Today was a critical day for her billion-dollar tech company, and the first-class seat she secured weeks ago felt like the launchpad for everything she had worked for. Clad in sharp business attire, she walked confidently down the aisle, ready to confront the challenges ahead. Her confidence shattered as a white man approached, accompanied by a flight attendant who barely glanced her way. "You're in my seat," he declared, his tone dismissive. The attendant nodded, her eyes flickering to the clipboard as if confirming the man's entitlement over her. A surge of disbelief coursed through her. Was this really happening? Despite her composed demeanor, the humiliation clung to her like static. "I'm traveling for business," she asserted calmly, but the words fell flat against the invisible wall of bias that seemed to envelop them. The man smirked, clearly reveling in the unwanted attention. Security was called, amplifying her sense of an injustice she thought she'd left behind. Faces around her turned. There was a mix of forbearance and discomfort as they watched her being escorted from a seat she'd claimed. Sitting in the terminal, heart racing and fists clenching, she reflected on years of fighting against an unyielding tide. No more. Fueled by a wave of pent-up frustration, she resolved to leverage her position. She gathered her legal team, a fire igniting within her. The stakes suddenly felt larger than herself. This was about redefining the norms and inspiring broader change. The plane roared above as she drafted the letter that would send tremors through the airline, a simple line halting a $120 million loan. The feeling was intoxicating, not for revenge, but for the possibility of change. She invited public scrutiny, fueled the outrage she knew would come, and steeled herself for a confrontation that would shape the narrative of discrimination in corporate spaces. No more silence. She sat in the wait like a storm. The plane had just been boarded, and her business attire felt heavier than ever, the stakes weighing down each carefully crafted thread. This flight was more than a trip. It was the future of her billion-dollar company, resting on the pitch she was about to deliver. She exhaled, summoning her courage. But the moment she stepped into the first-class cabin, her heart sank. Excuse me, that's my seat," a white passenger barked as he gestured toward her. The flight attendant's polite smile felt like ice against her skin, urging her to relinquish her spot. "I'm sorry, but I have a ticket for this seat," she replied, keeping her tone steady despite the storm of emotions swirling within her. The attendant shrugged, compliance evident in her eyes. "We really need to sort this out. Sir, may I ask you to take a seat in economy?" The passenger smirked, crossing his arms. "Not happening. She can leave." Clenching her fists, she took a breath, the familiar ache of indignation flooding her veins. Before she could process the gathering crowd around her, she was escorted off, the whispers of the onlookers echoing her humiliation. But the fire within her only grew. Later, in her office, she gathered her legal team. "This isn't just about me," she stated, voice resolute. "It's about dismantling systems of inequality. We freeze the $120 million loan. Let's make them listen." As negotiations began, outrage spread across social media, allies stepping forward to support her cause. With each tweet of solidarity, her resolve strengthened. In the shadow of adversity, she was reclaiming her narrative and striking back, one strategy at a time, preparing for a confrontation far beyond the confines of a plane. The aircraft hummed softly as the black CEO, dressed impeccably in her tailored suit, settled into her first-class seat, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Today's pitch was monumental. But that focus shattered when a white passenger stormed down the aisle, announcing her demand for the very seat the CEO occupied. "Excuse me, that's mine," she replied, her heart pounding. The flight attendant, seeing only the white passenger, responded with a patronizing smile, dismissing the CEO's protests. The scene twisted as security was called, turning the woman of power into a target of humiliation. Despite her composure, anger swirled within her as she was forcibly guided towards the back of the plane, her dreams of a successful pitch evaporating like vapor trails in the sky. Yet deep inside, a fire ignited. Refuge from the indignity surged in her as she mobilized her legal team. "I want change," she declared. This wasn't just about her. It was a stand against a pattern of racial bias that permeated society. Her company's ties to the airline became her sword. The $120 million loan she managed loomed large. Its freezing reverberated through the corporate world. Days passed and public outrage surged. Witness accounts surfaced, amplifying her narrative. As backlash grew, the airline's defenses crumbled. Clients began to pull their deals. Then came the phone call from the airline's desperate CEO, proffering a settlement. To his surprise, she rejected the money, demanding instead systemic change, bias training, improved hiring practices, and scholarships for students of color. Later, she stepped back onto the very airline that had wronged her. A beaming black flight manager greeted her, their eyes locking in a silent understanding. A wave of satisfaction washed over her. This moment symbolized more than her personal victory. It marked the beginning of change. Watching the kaleidoscope of hope and resilience in the eyes of those inspired made her heart swell. Justice wasn't just served, it was reshaped, infused with an enduring purpose. As I sat on that plane, my heart raced, not from anxiety, but from the weight of the moment. A few days ago, I was a determined CEO, dressed in confidence, ready to make waves in the investor world. Then came the confrontation that stripped away that facade. When security escorted me off the plane, I felt the sting of humiliation. I became the first-class problem, while the white passenger was given an undeserved privilege. Reflecting on that day, I learned that my voice mattered, that I could challenge the status quo. Freezing a $120 million deal with the airline was not merely a reaction, it was a statement. I wanted to change the conversation around equality, ensuring that no one would feel as powerless as I did in that moment. Do you think I went too far? What would you have done? Have you ever had someone treat you like that? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. I'd love to hear how you faced issues of bias and justice. Together, we can encourage a dialogue that sparks change.